Today, the grieving continues across Britain as bells toll and flower tributes amass across the country to honor Queen Elizabeth. The country is entering a 10-day mourning period, but the longest-serving queen in Britain's history will certainly be remembered for her work ethic and her longevity. And joining us today to talk about the Queen and her health is Dr. Payal Kohli. Certainly still a lot of questions surrounding how she died, but for what we do know specifically, what was her health like in these recent years? We heard a lot about it.
Remarkably good, actually, until probably about the last year or so. At 96 years old, she'd really only been in the hospital about once a decade. So most recently in October last year, we don't know what the cause of that was. Before that, 8 years ago, for a stomach bug, and before that, another decade or so ago for knee surgery. So really quite healthy, but we did see her sort of take a downward tumble this year, and she became more frail, and really I feel like her health had started to suffer.
And earlier this year, she had COVID. What impact did that have on her health?
I think a big impact. So February of this year, she had tested positive. The Royal Palace had said that she was having mild cold-like symptoms. But after that, she did come on publicly and say that she was extremely fatigued and very exhausted afterwards. And we noticed that after that, she had started walking with a cane and had some of those mobility issues that prevented her from attending many of those events, including the Jubilee earlier this year.
I'm curious because monarchs live these lavish lifestyles, right, that don't necessarily come with like the healthiest habits. But I'm not sure about Queen Elizabeth herself. What do we know about like her everyday habits?
Very healthy, in fact. So she did indulge a little bit. So she would have Earl Grey tea with cookies or cakes, and then have some marmalade on her toast in the morning. But besides that, really ate in moderation.
Very British.
It is, yeah. Didn't drink much, didn't smoke. She actually walked around the grounds every single day, walked her dogs around. And then at 93, she was even horseback riding. And of course, still having those garden tea parties. So I think that was a huge part of her longevity, was the lifestyle that she followed and the fact that she sort of continued to keep herself physically active.
And she reigned for such a long time, and her mind was so sharp. And I remember seeing that picture of her in that room just 2 days before she passed. How did she keep her mind so keen and sharp?
And that's very interesting because a lot of scientific research tells us that, you know, that the more you do, the more you can do. In fact, for a lot of different dementias, we ask patients to indulge in puzzles, indulge in executive function tasks like problem solving. So the Queen was very involved even almost until the very end in parliamentary proceedings. She would get daily briefings. She would continue to sort of stay very politically active and engaged, and I think that that was a huge part of her success.
What a remarkable life she had.
I know, and now it's also looking forward as we usher in a new king, a new monarch, who happens to be the oldest ever to take the throne at this stage of life. Do we know anything about his habits?
We don't, and you know, I will say that he's probably, compared to his mom, not quite as healthy, but I do hope that in his new role, especially with this team of royal physicians, because they have this medical household that takes very good care of them, hopefully, you know, he'll be able to take the physical demands as well as the intellectual demands of his new position.
Great. All righty. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Kohli. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
All right.